Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new video. It had barely been 6 months since our marriage when my husband started yearning for a child, more specifically, a son. Because of this intense desire, he would sleep with me every single day, following the instructions of his spiritual mentor, Ustad Mola. I used to get extremely exhausted, but he showed no sympathy toward me. He had only mentioned Ustad Mola vaguely. I had never seen the man myself, yet even without meeting him, I had developed a deep dislike for him. I resented him because my husband followed his every word blindly. I tried to explain to my husband that we had only recently gotten married and that having children or not was in God's hands, but he would only do what his mentor told him. One morning, after another exhausting night, I had fallen into a deep sleep. Suddenly, I woke up. As I turned to my right side, a loud scream escaped my lips. I was shocked to see a strange man sitting beside me, staring intently at my face. The sight of an unfamiliar man in my room so early in the morning made me freeze with fear. I quickly sat up in bed. Seeing me awake, he too straightened his posture, yet his disturbing gaze didn't stop. He kept staring at me as if he knew me very well. I hurried to get out of the room, but just as I was about to leave, he grabbed my hand. I hadn't expected such a move from him, and I started screaming loudly. A few moments later, my husband rushed into the room, but instead of reacting with alarm, he looked at me casually and asked, "What happened? Why do you look so scared?" I looked at him in utter disbelief. I wanted to ask him, "Are you insane or just pretending to be?" A strange man had entered our bedroom, and he was still sitting there right in front of him. "And you're asking me why I was screaming?" But I couldn't say a word, and I was too terrified at that moment. Then suddenly his eyes turned toward the man behind me, and he said, "Oh, what's there to be afraid of? This is my Ustad Mola." I looked at my husband in disbelief. He was standing there completely relaxed, while my legs were trembling so badly I could barely stand. My entire body was shaking. I glanced once more at that man. He was still staring at me with his filthy eyes. I felt deeply disgusted by him. I wanted nothing more than to slap him across the face, but I couldn't do anything because of my husband. I quickly walked out of the room while my husband kept trying to stop me. For the first time in my life, I was furious with my husband. Behind me, I heard his voice apologizing to Ustad Mola. "Please forgive her. She doesn't know, but don't worry, I'll explain everything to her. Please sit down." I didn't hear anything beyond that. I went into the other room and broke down crying. Ever since I had entered this house, my life had been ruined. There wasn't a moment of peace. As if the earlier problems weren't enough, now there was this new nightmare. Who was this Ustad Mola, and what did he want from me? I made up my mind that I would speak to my husband that very evening and ask him to never let that man into our home again, because his eyes weren't right. Later that evening, when I finally had a chance to talk to my husband, I brought it up. But instead of understanding my concerns, he got angry with me. "Are you out of your mind? What are you even saying? He's my teacher and someone I deeply respect," he shouted. "So I can't stop him from coming to this house, no matter what you say," my husband said firmly. "This is his home as much as it is ours. He can come whenever he wants. And you should accept this reality too. It's better for you. Besides, he came here to perform spiritual practices on you so that you can soon bless me with the good news of a child." He didn't listen to a single word I said. He clearly and completely rejected my concerns. I was furious. In anger, I even threatened him. If he didn't listen to me this time, I would leave and go back to my mother's house for good. But even then, he didn't offer any reassuring reply. Instead, he said coldly, "Go whenever you feel like it. And when you're done staying there, you can return. The doors of this house will always be open for you." I was overwhelmed with grief. I regretted the moment I had chosen to marry this man, how I had fought my entire family just to be with him. Back then, I had no idea how strange and blind his beliefs were. And now that I finally understood, I felt trapped. There was no way out. Through my tears, I called my mother. But when she heard my crying voice, she responded in a tired, indifferent tone. "If you've called just to complain again, then I'm hanging up right now. I warned you before, and now I have nothing more to say." Her words shattered me. I cried even harder. I had never expected such a cold reaction from her. A few moments later, I ended the call myself. I could still hear the voices of my husband and that man, Ustad Molla, coming from the other room. Suddenly, I heard my name being called. My husband was calling me. I didn't want to go, but I went anyway. This time, I had draped myself in a large shawl that covered my entire body. But even in that, I didn't feel safe. His piercing eyes felt like they were seeing right through the cloth, through me. As I handed him the glass of juice, he deliberately brushed his hand against mine. A strange jolt ran through my entire body, and the glass slipped from my hand, spilling all over his clothes. He instantly stood up, but didn't seem particularly bothered by it. On the other hand, my husband completely lost control. His sudden outburst shocked me. Not only did he slap me right in front of that man, but he also scolded me harshly. I had never expected that my husband could raise his hand on me in front of a stranger. It was the second and most painful shock I had received that day. I glanced at Ustad Molla, and he was smiling mysteriously, his eyes gleaming with a strange light. I couldn't bear to look into his eyes for long. I quickly locked myself in my room. It was only 5 in the evening, but I already began to dread the night ahead. I feared my husband might call me out again and humiliate me in front of that man once more. But thank God, nothing like that happened. My husband didn't return to the room again. Maybe he was feeling guilty for what he had done. But even that hope proved to be an illusion. He wasn't ashamed. In fact, he had taken Ustad Molla out for a drive and returned home only after having dinner with him. Later that night, someone knocked on the door. I quickly got up and opened it, but I didn't look at my husband's face. I went straight back to bed. I assumed he would try to make up with me, but without saying a word, he went to freshen up, then came to bed and fell asleep. That was unexpected for me. I got up and checked. He really was asleep. He didn't apologize, nor did he say a single word to me about what had happened. He acted as if none of it was his fault, as if I was the only one to blame. I felt overwhelmed and broke into tears. Around midnight, I finally woke him up and, shouting through my tears, asked, "What do you even want from me? Why are you doing all of this?" He was still half asleep at first and didn't quite understand what I was saying. But as soon as he came to his senses, his face turned angry again. With intense rage, he shouted, "Stay in your limits. You have no right to question me. It's my decision what I do with you and how I choose to keep you. And I'll make you pay for this disrespect in the morning." With that, he lay back down to sleep while I sat there frozen, completely stunned. He had suddenly become so indifferent toward me. I couldn't understand what had happened to him. The way he was speaking didn't even sound like him anymore. It felt like someone else had taken over his body and was talking through him. I cried the entire night and didn't sleep for a single moment. The next morning, I woke up early. As soon as I was out of bed, he gave me yet another shock. "Get ready quickly. We're going to Ustad Molla's house." I immediately refused. "I don't want to go there. I have no business being there. If he's your teacher, then he's your teacher, not mine." I made myself very clear. Hearing this, he flew into a rage. "If you refuse one more time," he roared, "I swear I'll divorce you right here, right now on the spot." After hearing those words, I went numb. I stood there, frozen like ice. By now, I had realized that I needed to prepare myself for anything, because my husband had completely changed. I couldn't just freeze up anymore. I tried to calm myself, and although I didn't want to, I went to get ready. He was driving in silence, not saying a single word to me. Eventually, I felt I needed to break the silence. So I asked him, "Does Ustad Molla have a wife?" He replied that Ustad Molla had married 4 times. This shocked me, and I also felt a sense of pity for Ustad Molla. Despite having 4 wives, he still had his eyes on someone else's wife. But I couldn't say this out loud to my husband. If I did, there was no doubt he would have divorced me on the spot. After a short while, his car stopped in front of a massive mansion. I was stunned to see it. Without a doubt, the architect deserved praise. It was a grand, spacious white mansion that could leave anyone speechless at first glance. Seeing it, I realized Ustad Molla was indeed a very wealthy man. Perhaps it was this wealth that gave him so much influence over everyone. Soon after, I entered the mansion with my husband. All the workers inside were women. Not a single man was present, and all the women looked extremely scared and timid. Ustad Molla quickly came forward and greeted my husband. Before he could approach me, I hurriedly stepped to the side and began speaking to one of the women standing nearby. My husband noticed this move clearly, but I didn't care. I could not compromise on this. I had my limits, and I knew how to guard them. We sat there for almost an hour. During that time, my husband kept talking to Ustad Molla, while Ustad Molla kept staring at me. I couldn't understand why, but it felt like the more Ustad Molla ogled me, the more pleased my husband seemed. I was boiling inside, furious at my husband's shamelessness. After a little while, I got up and went outside, where I began talking to some of the women standing around. They responded to me very cautiously, as if Ustad Molla had already warned them in advance. But there was one girl among them who seemed to be new. When the other women moved a little aside, I approached that girl and asked her what the situation here was. Hearing my question, she first became nervous and then started crying. Seeing her cry, I grew concerned and quickly looked around to make sure no one was watching us. Then I took her to the back side of the mansion. There I asked her again, "Why are you crying like this? Did something bad happen?" Hearing my question, she said, "BBG, I don't want to stay here, but I can't leave. Please, help me get out of this place." Saying this, she began sobbing even louder. She was a young girl, and her condition broke my heart. But I couldn't do anything to help her. When I asked her why she didn't want to stay there, she told me the same thing, that Ustad Molla looked at her inappropriately and harassed her. She said he had tried to come close to her 2 or 3 times already. Even though he was a married man, he never stopped his behavior. She went on to tell me that Ustad Molla had been involved with almost every woman in that mansion, but none of them spoke up out of fear, because he threatened to harm their families if they said anything. Hearing this made my blood boil. I asked her, "Then why do people respect him so much?" She answered, "He traps people. He fools them with charms, amulets, and black magic. He misleads them and offers them money as well." "As for your husband," the girl said, "what I know is that he has been coming to Ustad Molla for the past 12 years. The moment I heard 12 years, my mind started spinning again. Who knows what kind of poison Ustad Molla had already planted in his mind over all that time? I didn't know what to do anymore. I wanted to ask her so much more, but I couldn't, because just then my husband and Ustad Molla appeared. When Ustad Molla saw the girl standing with me, he looked surprised for a moment. Then once again that eerie smile spread across his face. He had clearly figured out my little act. Even then he stood there calmly, and it was that calmness of his that I found utterly venomous. "If your investigation is complete, may I send my maid back to her duties inside," Ustad Molla said in a mocking tone. I felt embarrassed. I glanced at my husband, who was still glaring at me with anger in his eyes. I don't know why, but I had a strong feeling that my time with him was nearing its end. If he continued behaving like this, I'd walk away on my own. But what I didn't know was that before I could do that, something was about to happen to me, something I couldn't even have imagined. That day, like usual, I was home alone, watching TV when suddenly the doorbell rang. I quickly got up and opened the door, and that's where I made a mistake. I didn't ask who it was. The moment I opened it, I came face to face with Ustad Molla. My breath caught in my throat. Before I could even try to shut the door, he placed his foot inside and said with that same mysterious smile, "I haven't come on my own, your husband sent me. And I'm not here without reason. I have something important to do, so it would be best if you quietly let me in. Otherwise, you'll be responsible for whatever happens next." Reluctantly, I agreed to his request and let him in. I was in the kitchen preparing juice for him when suddenly my phone rang. It was my husband calling. He was on his way back from the office and was instructing me, "You must take great care of Ustad Molla. Don't disrespect him and don't let him have any complaints about you." I reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, I won't do anything like that." The reason I said that was because the night before, I had made a decision. I was going to pull my husband out of Ustad Molla's influence. To do that, I first needed to win his trust. That's why I quietly accepted my husband's instructions without protesting this time. But what I didn't know was that after 12 years, it wasn't just difficult to remove the poison from a person's mind, it was almost impossible. I was lost in thoughts, wondering how I could make my husband distrust Ustad Molla, when suddenly I felt as though someone was standing very close to me. When I turned around, there he was, Ustad Molla. He was so close that there was barely an inch between us. If I had taken even one small step back, I would have bumped right into him. Without thinking, I quickly jabbed my elbow into his chest. He groaned in pain and almost cursed me, but then stopped and said, "The more you run from me, the more I'll follow you. So it's better that you give yourself to me willingly." I didn't expect this from him at all. I replied, "If you say this to me again, I will tell my husband everything about you." Hearing that, he started laughing and said, "You think your husband will believe you? In reality, he'll beat you up for accusing me. He'll never support you. He is only under my control. And if I were to add to your knowledge, let me tell you this, he only married you at my request. In fact, when he was about to marry you, he came to me and showed me your picture. If I had refused, he would have never married you." Hearing this, my mind went blank. I hadn't even realized that my husband was under such complete control by him. So much so that he made all his decisions based on Ustad Molla's wishes. I started regretting my decisions all over again. I had ruined my life with my own hands. After that, Ustad Molla tried to move closer and grab me, but I quickly stepped aside. Suddenly there was a knock on the door, and he looked at me with a devilish glint in his eyes and said, "Today you've managed to escape me, but don't worry. Tomorrow I'll come back and ask for permission. No one will be able to stop me from coming to you." With that, he quickly left through the door. When my husband saw Ustad Molla, they exchanged looks and communicated silently. I realized that both of them were demons, and they were working together. Now I couldn't even feel safe in my own home. Whatever needed to be done, I had to do it myself. So I made a plan and started thinking about how I would act on it the next day. The following evening, around 5, my husband returned home again and told me to get ready. When I asked him why, he didn't answer. I didn't argue and quickly got ready. He watched me for a while and then picked up his phone, dialing a number. About an hour later, there was a knock on the door and Ustad Molla entered the house. After that, my husband told me to go to my room and added, "You mustn't upset Ustad Molla. He will stay here and perform rituals to remove the bad influences on you." At that moment, my heart felt shattered. I quietly went to my room and my husband was stunned by my condition. A little while later, Ustad Molla entered the room. I didn't let him come near me initially and began questioning him about his past, challenging him in anger. In a fit of rage, he started telling me how he had deceived young girls and how he had also deceived my husband. He revealed how, through my husband, he had come into my life. I had recorded everything he said. Soon there was a knock on the door. I knew my brother had arrived. He didn't come alone. He had brought the police with him. At that moment, the lies Ustad Molla had told me were exposed. It turned out that my husband and he were working together. My husband would trap beautiful girls, marry them, and then hand them over to Ustad Molla. Often they would have children and sell them at high prices. That was why he had always wanted a son. Finally, I was free from them. After that, I started working, and not long after, with my family's approval, I married a man from my company.